All right, welcome in to a special edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here from our studio, with this content being brought to you by Crowd Push. We have told you a lot about Crowd Push over the last couple of months and days, and Crowd Push is a cool interactive device that gives the fans an opportunity to be involved in name, image, and likeness. We've got the president of Crowd Push with us, Ben Hubbard. We've also got 4 fifth-year OG LSU gymnasts, led off by our girl Sarah Edwards, who makes her return back to the Jordy Culotta Show. We've got Sami Durante, we've got Reagan Campbell, and we have Christina Desiderio that is going to be with us over the next couple of minutes, answering your questions, giving their experiences, talking about name, image, and likeness, and also giving you, the fan, an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Crowd Push and how you can become involved in not only sports like football and basketball, but sports like gymnastics and beach volleyball and all types of sports on campus. So we'll tell you all about that. But let's start off by introducing our crew, and we'll start with Ben Hubbard, who is the president of Crowd Push. And Ben, obviously with name, image, and likeness approaching a 1-year anniversary of July 1st being legalized throughout intercollegiate athletics. This has been a very evolving topic and something that has been changing along the ways, and it's really kind of dealt on state-by-state emphasis. What has your experience been like up to this point?
It's been a fun ride. As we grow our company, one of the few where when we saw NIL, we didn't want to approach it as just a single university, even though every founder in our company has a particular university or two that they love. We wanted to really allow multiple universities and multiple communities and fan bases to be able to get involved in NIL, because it's really more of a brand specific thing where the fans don't have any voice. As far as our experience, it's been neat learning all the different rules and laws for each state, and then seeing all those rules and laws change within a matter of months. Like here in Louisiana, they're in the process of amending the law. SSB House Bill 250, where they're going to make several changes to like the restrictions on it for the universities and such. Mississippi just changed their laws, which is where I'm from. Alabama rescinded their law a little while ago, and so there's the landscape is just completely changing. So in less than a year, it's not the same as it was.
Sure. This is a recruiting tool, right?
Can be, yeah.
Looked at state by state. I think the language is changing to really be able to keep up with recruiting.
Yeah, and not just high schoolers, but people on your team. I mean, like the whole recruiting landscape has changed. NIL is I personally think it's a good thing to allow these people to, how to put this, profit or be rewarded for their celebrity and their hard work, because not many people can actually get on a team like these young ladies. Like the stuff they can do is incredible, and most of us can't do that. And they pull 10-15,000 people into the stadium. The football athletes pull up to 100,000 people, 200,000 people in the town around it. So I think it's a good thing for it to happen. And then yes, it will impact recruiting just by the nature of it's the new ocean of the NCAA. Right. So if you are a university and you aren't adopting some kind of strategy to ensure that your athletes have a path to, be compensated for their name, image, likeness, I think you're going to be in trouble. And then I also think that when you're thinking about it, and one of the reasons we found a Crowd Push is that you shouldn't just focus on the individual. So many of these sports and things that you care about are team efforts. I've been a sports fan since 1997 when I went to my first college football game. And, I've never really cheered necessarily for an individual. I mean, there's some individuals I like more, but at the end of the day, I wanted my team to have a lot and the other teams to have less, right? And so with this is, how do I agreed to do it when my partner Doug came up with the idea and was like, hey, can we build this? And, I'm technically the CTO, so I'm the tech guy that actually built the platform, did all that. But I was like, yeah, let's do it, because, I've been to several college sporting events. I actually have season tickets to women's basketball that I got years ago and go with my family back in my hometown. So, yeah, but I think to finalize answering recruiting is, high schoolers now are really going to be looking at this. Yeah. And even here in Louisiana, you've kind of leading the way, and we'll see if it's a good lead or not. But I applaud you for at least trying. Is the high school board has now allowed high schoolers to try and do NIL as well. Yeah. So I mean, for a future-looking thing, you really want to look at, well, how do we show these people when they're looking at our school that our community will support them?
I think Louisiana probably has the most popular senior high school athlete in the country in Arch Manning, who was the quarterback down in Newman. Obviously, he's Peyton Manning's nephew and Archie Manning's grandson and Cooper Manning's son, but he comes with a ton of just name recognition, right? So it'll be interesting to see what a player like Arch, who's at the one end of the spectrum in the scale, what he can capitalize on here in his senior season, because a lot of people believe that he'll be playing for, high seven-figure contract in college. I mean, I think that there's reports that, $5 to $8 million offer for Arch Manning to play at the next level is something that's very feasible, and that could possibly happen. So it'll be interesting to see how that takes shape here in the state of Louisiana. Over the last 5 years, all four of our guests have been a part of the LSU Gymnastics program, which has experienced tremendous success, not only on the floor and in competition, but in the community. You have seen fans really start to get behind the gymnastics program and see that on Friday nights inside the Maravich Center, where it was routine to see 13,000, 14,000 people every single weekend inside of the arena cheering the gymnastics program on. NIL, as we said, a year old, and really early on in learning about NIL, especially from a LSU being around Baton Rouge standpoint. I always thought that the gymnastics program was one that was going to experience tremendous success in this type of format, just because, look, there's no helmet. People can see you. They know who you are. You can form a relationship. There's a lot of kids that are in that arena that are very tied to the performances and to the players and the individuals. So let's go down the line. Let's start. Sarah Edwards is back with us. Sarah has been obviously on our show right when we got started a little under a year ago, and kind of was giving us the early signs of NIL, and she's experienced a lot of success with her social media following and some companies around the state of Louisiana. Sarah, it's good to see you. Welcome back. Look, get that microphone close to you. Pull it into you. That way, when you talk, we can hear you. But tell me, just give me a little update. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a couple of months since we spoke last, and obviously, you ladies have just finished up the season. I know it didn't end the way that you all like to, but tell me about your experience of actually taking competition with NIL being legal.
Yeah. So when we first spoke, it was in the beginning phase, and we were just in preseason, and just a lot of NIL deals come about, and you could do them more easily. But whenever we were in competition, every Friday, we're traveling every other Friday, it just got a little more tough to navigate. So you really had to choose some sponsorships that would allow you to have the flexibility to be able to post, or just let them know up front, hey, this isn't going to be something that I'm going to be able to do right now. So that is more of a challenge than I initially thought it was going to be, but there was still lots of opportunities, kind of crowd push, to be able to post a picture, something that you already had, get a logo put on it, and be able to put it to your social media and be hey, by the way, we're doing this. It's just kind of one of those ongoing things while you're in season that was able to help benefit the gym girls as we competed.
Sami, was it hard to manage? I mean, when I don't think people realize when you show up on a Friday night and watch, in your case, a gymnast perform, that there's so much preparation. There's academics that go into it. There's a social life that you have that you're trying to kind of master, be a part of. And then you're also being asked to be a spokesperson for somebody's company. Was it a burden at all?
I don't think it was a burden. I think it's just one more thing that you get to add to your to-do list. Growing up, we've always had so much to do. You're always in the gym most of your day, and then you have to figure out how to do school and have friends and the rest of your life. And so I think it was just one more thing that we added to our list of things to do, and just had to figure out a way to add it in. But I think it was I don't think it was a burden. I think it really gave us more opportunities.
Yeah. Reagan, what was your experience like with name, image, and likeness here in your 5th year?
It's been really cool for me. It was more so like I didn't take anything seriously with it. I just had fun with it. It was a way for like people to get to know me on another level outside of sports, which
Yeah.
I really like.
Sure.
But overall, I think it was just a good opportunity, and I learned a lot about myself along the way, like what I wouldn't like to do, what I would
bet.
like to brand. Like
Yeah.
it's your brand, really, and like she said, like crowd push was a good way for us to kind of like all of season it just kept going on, but it was also a good way to like interact with fans, and like that was the biggest thing for me. I want the fans to like what I'm doing.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
crowd push, I think, really highlighted that part of it.
How about you, Christina, from your point of view? What was this year like for you in having the opportunity to endorse a product?
Yeah, it was definitely really neat. I think NIL allows athletes to build their brand and promote things outside of athletes and just show what their passions are. I think that was really neat. And I think also, like, as we're done now, it's going to help us, like, in the real world, what I like to call the real world. Just, like, negotiating contracts, speaking to people, being professional. I think it's just really helped with that aspect a lot, too.
Sarah, if you were entering college right now rather than leaving college, how would you approach this? Would you hire somebody to manage this for you, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what I know now, I definitely think that you would have to have someone on your side to be able to help with like ciphering through different things. I mean, I know like even exiting right now, I have an email set up on my Instagram, and like people are just constantly like emailing me, and like you're like trying to go through and you're like, what does this mean? Half of this looks like it's a scam. Like, is this real? Is this not? So I would definitely have someone to kind of cipher through the deals and to like pick the best deals that would the most fit your style, your brand, your profile, and then things that you're passionate about, and then get rid of the rest.
How did you see companies getting in touch with you, Sami? Was it just DMs into your social media? Was that the most common way?
Yeah, a lot of DMs, a lot of emails, like she said. You put your email in your bio or on your Instagram, and a lot of people email you, and also DMs.
Did you approach anybody saying that I'm interested in your product? Would you like me to endorse
I did,
it?
actually, yeah. I emailed a few people and told them.
Yeah. How did that work?
Worked out well. I
it
mean,
worked out.
some responded,
Sure.
some didn't.
Yeah.
It kind of goes both
I mean, it's
ways.
sales.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it
Yeah.
goes along with what Christina is saying,
Right.
is that it sets you up for a little bit of life after
Right.
college, the real world, right?
Yeah,
Where,
for sure.
I mean, you're always selling, right? I mean, like, it doesn't matter what profession you're in. I mean, at the bottom line of it, you're selling something to someone and trying them to gain interest.
Right.
How about you, Reagan, from the experience of just the on-taking, right? The taking on of NIL, knowing what you know now. If you had 5 years of this ahead of you, if you had 4 years of this ahead of you, kind of with the knowledge that you have built into it, how would you approach it?
I think I definitely would need someone on my team. I don't know what everything is. I've learned along the way. Like, this year's been a big learning lesson for me. I don't know how to deal with contracts and things like that. And I have to reach out to people. What does this mean? I don't
Sure.
know. And so I think definitely going into it, you need someone.
Right. Is there a dangerous side to NIL, in your opinion, Christina? And we'll go down the line, but I'll start with you. And I don't mean dangerous in the sense of trouble, right? Like you can go to jail, but just dangerous in the sense of distraction, right? I mean, like taking away, like it is a great learning field, I believe. But then you're also tasked with keeping your grade point average eligible,
Yeah.
and you need to stay in shape and stay active to perform.
Yeah, Reagan and I were actually just talking about this in the car. I definitely think it could be a distraction. I think that's why you have to keep your priorities straight. But as athletes, we all know how to keep our priorities straight for the most part. But that's what I really like about crowd push, because it gets everyone involved. So some teams obviously are going to have more popular people than
Sure.
other people. So, but crowd push really allows for just the fans to,
Team aspect.
yeah, with the team. So,
Yeah. The crowd push, that is the difference, right? I mean, that is kind of what stands you out from the rest of the competition.
Yeah, so our whole focus is connecting the fans and the communities that care about the team and want it to be successful with the team. and the team. So I think the people that are popular and have managed their social media and gotten lawyers and other help, I mean, they will get something. But other people are maybe more focused on just becoming better on the team and ensuring the team wins. And for some athletes love this, and she's out reaching for it and going for it, and that's amazing. But other people are like, well, I don't really want to do it, but I am on the team. And so how do we create that mechanism to where I made it on the team, I'm on the team, I'm helping get win, and I know that I will get something. Mm-hmm. Because the fan base, particularly the fan base, is out there supporting it, throwing it in. Because if I'm going to go Friday night and watch the ladies, what's another $50 to throw to it? And then if you take $50 times 10,000 people, that's a significant amount of money that you can then offer the ladies as a whole team. And if you're doing that, well, then they could be more focused on the game and winning, and maybe a little bit less focused on trying to build their brand and call people to get a deal because they need some spending money, like on gas. And I want to make a point to what Reagan said of being on the other side of it and negotiating with several athletes. It is a very interesting deal. These are mostly young adults who've never done it. You as I've been a businessman for 10, 15 years now. It's like my third startup. And so I've done deals, and now I'm negotiating with either 18 to 23-year-old or their parents, or a few have had agents. And so it's been apparent that you need to be really careful when you're dealing with them, because you don't want to take advantage of them, right? Like you want to give them a fair deal, but also you as a business and a brand have to protect yourself. So I've got a contract that was written by a lawyer, because it's what you do. And now I'm giving that to them, and I'm like, please understand this. So I've had to, and my partners and I have had to go through the contract and write an English version.
Yeah, sure.
Which I was inspired by Square, the payment processor does that. If you ever read their terms, they got all the legalese, and then there's the little English description.
Yeah.
This is what this actually means.
Footnotes.
The footnotes,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So my contract, I wrote footnotes. What does this mean, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you're negotiating with an athlete and their parent, and you're not dealing with an agent or maybe a lawyer. Some athletes we've dealt with have gone to the team lawyer.
Sure.
And they've helped them. So I think that's a good thing. That's a great thing that the team lawyers are helping them. But
do you have somebody proofreading your contracts?
I do not.
Really?
Well, yeah, I'm just out here doing it.
Yeah, you just signing.
Yeah.
You're signing your life away.
Yeah.
Right? You could be. I mean, that's the scary thing about contracts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they put all these double hyphenated words in there and you're wondering, what am I even reading? But screw it, I'll sign it. The next thing you know, you're locked up for 50 years on some type of royalty that you can't collect on.
I will say the nice thing is the rules typically make it to where the contract can't go beyond their eligibility.
Sure.
So that is a rule within it that once their eligibility ends,
Look, all of them are like,
oh really?
Nice.
Who knew?
Yeah. Hey, that's why we're doing it, so
As they're
everybody
walking
can
up the
learn.
stage to grab their diploma. So from a crowd push standpoint, how is this model different than others that I know that you have experience with Matchpoint and working directly with business to consumer? What is the difference that makes this model stand out from a crowd push standpoint?
Yeah, so some of the other models have been more so of like, okay, you're promoting a product. Like here is like this clothing line, or here is this drink, or whatever it is. And so like you're trying to figure out a way to like incorporate that into who you are and your brand, and like without it being like too pushy or like too like salesy on your page. Yeah. So with crowd push, it's more of like just self-promotion, which is a lot of what we ourselves are good at, because we get to use one of the LSU photos, or something like that is just like, hey, we're doing this, like we would love like donations to just like continue benefiting, like to get the crowds involved, because our crowds, especially at Gymnastics, they want to help us out.
Yeah.
Like they're always like inviting us to go places, like a lot, like you said, a lot of them have small children. Like we're getting invited to birthday parties and like to go like have dinner or go to the movies with their kids. And so I think this is an awesome way for for us to give back, but then also the community if they wanted to as well.
Does that cause any? Because I'd imagine like 3 years ago, they'd have probably come up to you and asked, "Hey, can you show up to my kid's birthday party?" And they expect you to show up for free. Right? Like
Right.
now when they ask you to show up to a birthday party, that's an appearance, right? And I mean, that's a way for you to collect. How has that conversation changed from, hey, I'm accessible, but now you have to pay me, right? I mean, is that kind of awkward?
You got it to me.
I know I'm just looking over there in that direction. I hate to just cast the questions over there, but y'all just kind of
None
go
of them
as you
want to
see fit.
answer.
Yeah.
I have.
I feel like if you know someone on a person, I feel like you have to decipher
Sure.
whether or not you
Friends
were to
and
be
family.
like
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
like whether
Yeah.
or not you would charge someone based on like how you know them on a personal level. But
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that yet. I'm just guessing that's how I would handle it.
I kind of feel bad
Yeah.
sometimes because I'm like, well, I mean, I can do
Because
it
like
for
last year I did
free.
this for free,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's kinda
and
like,
so
yeah,
now I
I'll
need
do it.
$100.
Why not? I'll do it for free. I did it last time
Yeah.
for free. Like,
You may want to just compromise. I mean, you're taking time and then maybe gas and effort, and you're having
Right.
costs associated to show up.
right.
You know, like now with gas and stuff, hey, I got to drive over to your birthday party, spend whatever, and do. I mean, that you don't want to. You're trying not to come across as greedy because you want the fans to
Sure.
like you and stuff. but,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think you can make a fair point of, I'm going to show up to your birthday party. It's going to cost me $50 to show up. Can you please just help
Yeah.
cover that? And now you can, and it's not a
Right.
recruiting violation. Now,
Right.
the only problem now is you've got to give me a NCAA NIL contract that can pass muster, and you have to report it to. So that's the downside of asking for money too. Is now that appearance? Oh, it's an appearance. Pay me. But now, okay, here's the actual compliant contract that we have to sign. Here's the quid pro quo of I'm showing up to your birthday party and you're paying me, my expenses. Which it doesn't have to be that complex a contract, but they have to do it, and then
Something
they have to,
legal has to be down, right?
and they have to report it through the thing, which is it's an app. What app are you using at LSU? I forget.
Ours is arms.
Arms. So yeah, so they report it to the app, but
Yeah.
We met Taylor Jacobs, who was a part of a NIL event that was on campus. I was the MC. Crowd Push was a sponsor of it. They had a panel up there answering questions, whether it was business owners, but Taylor Jacobs was one of the panelists, and she by far was the most active. Like, she had the most information. She was answering the most questions, but she also had the most I don't knows. You know what I mean? There's a lot of I don't know yet. I mean, I don't know where we are. How much do you as athletes resource her? Taylor Jacobs, because I can imagine that
Probably
I'd imagine that her phone does not stop.
Yeah.
She doesn't make she
Saved in our-
definitely doesn't make enough money.
No,
Um,
not at all.
But how much do you as athletes resource her, and what are some, like, what's a typical question? What's a typical back and forth between you and Taylor?
I think the biggest thing is like mainly with like pictures, so we can't use LSU logos unless we get it approved. So I know a lot of us will like send her a quick picture, be like, hey, is this okay? Like, can you see any logos in it or anything like that? Or really just ask her really any advice. Since this is such untreaded territory in NCAA athletics, she's been doing a really good job at educating herself and LSU as a whole, which then they educate us.
Yeah.
So they've been a really, really big help in like helping us and guiding us through the whole
Yeah, I'd imagine
process.
that stuff is very, just litigious first. I mean, you don't even, because even, isn't it like the color schemes as well? Like, you can't
Yeah,
use a
you
shade
can't
of
even
purple
use
and
the
gold.
shade of purple.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy. But LSU is one of the only schools that allows the athletes to use the brand. Is that right? Like, there has to be some type of agreement, I know, but can't you work hand in hand with the athlete and the school and the logos and the colors? But I'd imagine they get a
Yeah.
cut. Is that how that works?
I think that from what I was talking with Taylor about one time is that I would have to pay for the pictures that LSU took of me in order to be able to use them in like a promotion type
crazy.
of way. Or you can like go at it from the angle of like, okay, I'm only gonna like tag this person, like this brand in a photo of me that LSU took and then have a caption. Like, typically that's okay, but if you wanted to like showcase like a tanning product, since all of us are notorious for like fake tanning, like if you wanted to hold that in like a leotard, like, hey, like I use this product or whatever, like that's a no-go.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think if that can change, as NIL continues to evolve and like change and go different routes, if that is something that athletes can do, whether LSU takes a cut or not, that's going to be super beneficial for the athletes.
Yeah, absolutely.
hey, let me jump in there from dealing with several different universities on this. So each university is slightly different. and what they're doing. And it's really up to each individual university on how far they want to let that go, because technically they're trademarks. So whatever that may be, the colors, the name,
The font. Yeah.
the slogan, is protected, and they usually license this through different partners, and you pay a certain amount of money to be able to do that. If you want to use their brand on something, and they can take a cut and a royalty of it from Learfield and CLC and those agencies. And then with like pictures and marks, like LSU can allow that in Mississippi State and Alabama and SMU and others, right? And it's kind of up to them, but also depends on their relationship with Learfield and CLC, and like and where can that go? So there's a few websites out there of these school specific collectives that are doing things that may be pushing the envelope of having athletes in uniforms with the name on it, and technically they're not supposed to unless they've got a license from it and that the school's approved it, but then the school can not go after it, right? And so we've been working with Taylor, and I think it's been really good from it. She does a good job. She's definitely overworked when you're dealing with her. You're sitting there, hey, I need this, and like 200 people are probably saying the same thing, right?
Well, and it's a hell of a point of view from her office, because 2 years ago she was discouraging them from talking to anybody that had any type of offer or money that was coming to them. And now she is totally, she was telling me stories like where athletes are like, are you sure? Like, are you playing a joke? Like, it was just 6 months ago where you were like, swearing me with my life if I would talk to anybody with business opportunities. So, from her standpoint, it's a hell of a 180 that she's had to turn in knowledge building. I think at the base of what we're doing right now, in this content that we are creating right now, I think the ultimate takeaway that we're trying to give people is knowledge, is education, because there's just so much of I don't know, it's just sounds good. Yeah. Sarah Edwards, get her to the birthday party, pay her $100. Whatever, however it works. It's still so much of an unknown, and everybody kind of looks to her. There were so many head turns that day in the room when a question was asked where everybody would kind of look at her and be like, what do you think? What is it? And it was, it's a hell of a position for her. You can feel kind of the pressure of it, just kind of the uncertainty of it.
Yeah, she mentioned that at the event a bit, that people are now like coming to her and seeking her out before they were avoiding her.
Avoiding her, right?
And that's actually a question I'd like to ask the ladies is, what's your relationship with compliance been like in this new world? How has it changed and shifted? Like, I'd like to get your perspective on that.
I think you just kind of need to know them a little bit better and talk to them more. I think in the past we kind of knew, like, you can't do that. Like, there's just nothing you can do. But now it's kind of like you can do a little bit, but sometimes you can't do things, and you just don't really know, so you ask questions. And so I think that's been probably the biggest change.
How much do you talk to other athletes from other sports about their opportunities and their interactions? Is there anything that you can learn, or I'd imagine people learn from you all, because it seems to me y'all have had some of the most success of this early on. How much is the crossover in communication between athletes?
I would say that a lot of athletes have reached out to me personally, like, hey, even from different schools too. They're like, what are you doing? What is how do you go about this? Where do I start? Kinds of things like that. So I think it's awesome that people are wanting to learn and to get involved, and I wish that it had started with us a little bit sooner, because I know, speaking for myself, I've really enjoyed it. And I think it's just a cool opportunity for us. But yeah, a lot of people have reached out, and they want to know how to get involved into how to build their own brand.
How much room do you think there is for people like you to come back and consult, whether it be an athletic department or whether it just be the gymnastics program? From a granular standpoint, but somebody that has been through it and has that point of view. I wish I wasn't leaving it. Right, because I found some success in it. How do you? I'd imagine that there would probably be room for Sarah Edwards to give knowledge down to whoever's a freshman, sophomore, junior on the gymnastics program now.
I'm staying in Baton Rouge for the next 2 years. I'm gonna go back to LSU and get my MBA. So yeah, I'm gonna be close to the girls, and if they need help, like going and taking pictures or going this, and like which branch do they do. I know a lot of our girls are on Match Point, and they seem to like it. And Match Point is, like here locally, giving out you know deals and everything. So I'm still working closely with Match Point, and Taylor and I were discussing what. Taylor Jacobs and I were discussing what that might look like in the future for like NIL and being in that space. So things are still being worked out and finalized, but I still think I'll be around and be able to work with.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that there's probably a ton of opportunity that NIL will provide as far as jobs go. I think that there will be much more jobs on campus now for just knowledge building. People that have the experience, people that can give their ideas and their thoughts to it. Where do you think this go? Where do you see this? This might be a tough question just because it feels like it's changing every day, but how big can this get? How much can this change? How much do you expect it to change from your point of view? How much 2 years from now when you look back on it, be like, wow, we were the first class to go through NIL. Now look at it, right? Like now look at what the girls are being able to accomplish and promote and the rules that they're playing under. How much do you think it changes in the next 2 years? Should probably be the easiest question. Let's start down here with Christina.
I think it's going to change a lot. Honestly, as you said, it changes every day. I think it's just going to keep growing and keep evolving. I think Taylor is a really good resource to have. As I said, she's very knowledgeable. I mean, she still doesn't know a lot of things, but she's the most knowledgeable person that we know. So I think it's important for people to keep in contact with her, but I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. And
do business owners ask you all the time, like, what is this? How can I help? Like they're asking you questions when you feel like you should be like, I don't know. I mean, you tell me how much, right? Like, what do you want me to do? Because there's just so much uncertainty of the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's still trying to figure it out, which is why it's going to grow a lot, because as people learn things, like, they'll be able to do more when they know what they can do or that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think from a fan standpoint, Crowd Push is really a great platform for people that want to be involved, because from at least my point of view, somebody who covers LSU, covers sports, and also sells advertising, I get more questions about, hey, we want to be involved. Like, we would love to do this. We're a small business. We can't go get Garrick Stingley, but we would like to be able to promote and donate to LSU, and however that may be. It doesn't have to be the football program. It doesn't have to be the basketball program. How could I make any headway? And I always tell them, go to crowdpush.com, because I believe that CrowdPush is a great platform for just the fan, right? Like it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, doesn't have to be a business owner, doesn't have to be anybody that has necessarily, be in the highest tax bracket. You don't have to be, uber rich to jump in and donate your $10 to $15 or $50, like you say. So how do you see this changing, Ben, and how do you at Crowd Push kind of stay at the forefront, or stay at least educated enough to make sure that the product that you're offering is viable?
Just keep doing stuff like this and keep engaging with athletes and talking to them, engaging with the compliance departments, looking after the laws, seeing where they're going, see what we can do, what we can't do. And just one of our big things is just continue to educate the market, right? And so that as rules change, if we need to adapt the platform, we'll adapt the platform or whatnot. But I think you made a good point. Is the one thing I want us to be is, how do the people have the question of, like, how do I get involved? They know about business. Well, you can call up one of the ladies or another athlete and say, let's go through the whole contract process. Or, with our platform, it's just come in, give us the money, use some sponsorship dollars, throw your logo up there, and then it's in the pot, and you know that the money is going to go support the team. And you're like, hey, I supported gymnastics, or I supported basketball, right? And then again, on the fans is, I'd love the football team to be better, or the baseball team, or the basketball team, the women's basketball team, whatever sport it is you love the most. I want to support it more than just buying apparel or donating to one of the other funds, because those don't necessarily go to the athletes. So how can I directly impact the athletes with the minimum effort? And that's why we really built our platform. And where we go from here is really keep that going. And then if the market changes a lot, we'll adapt with it.
Got a question from Ben S. inside of the chat who's watching. You know him? I know him?
Continue.
Whose boyfriend is it?
Nobody's boyfriend.
Crazy fan?
Crazy fan.
Oh, God. Ben S. wants to know, how quick was the turn? I think when you were talking about, like, Taylor Jacobs kind of being, like you were avoiding her, now you're trying to get more information from her. And when did you find out that NIL was going to become an opportunity? Like, when did you kind of realize, like, this stuff's for real? Like, this, we're going to be able to really make money. Did that take a while to really kind of digest, I'd imagine?
So Taylor has a platform herself of kind of like a blogger. So I think that the NIL space was just like a really quick switch for her because she understood what she was doing and what some of the athletes would be doing as well. So I think that it was a perfect segue for her just because she had so much knowledge about it. And then to your second point, I actually don't remember your second point.
When you found out that it was become real, did you believe it?
Wait, I remember Sami and I were sitting on the couch as soon as the law came out, and we were like messaging like all the companies, and we were like, okay, like,
Fiore,
hey,
yes.
we'd love to work with you, like, because the way it was being pushed to us was like, okay, anything that you don't want to pay for, like, go and ask, and so we're like, okay,
perfect.
Sure.
Yeah, right,
and so,
right.
that's kind of how it started, and
You got S6 Mercedes, if you don't mind.
yeah, no, my DMs that day were just full of people. Some respond, some don't. But no, that's just the cost of it. But it's really cool to have been able to start up the day one and get ready.
Did y'all have success day one, Sami, when you were sending out the DMs and asking all?
We had a few people.
We did have a few people respond.
Yeah.
A lot more didn't, but
Right, sure.
It is what it is.
What was the craziest ask? What's the craziest ask that you made?
I don't know. First day was mostly like clothing.
We wanted free clothes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was it on the first.
How much do y'all get asked about Livy Dunn?
All the
A
time.
lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Very a lot.
Right.
A lot.
What was it like being her teammate and seeing her through this part of NIL? What was that like from y'all's point of view?
I mean, I think she really just handled it like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't like I have all these things, so like.
Right. It's
and
not
I
like
have
a
all
I'm
these
better than you.
followers.
It was
Yeah.
not like in
It
your
wasn't-
face or
It
anything.
was just I'm here to do gymnastics and like I'm your teammate and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be your friend and like
This
it
is also
was
what I do.
There was
mostly about
concern inside of a football locker room, inside of a basketball locker room, where you've got egos, right? You got a lot of macho stuff that goes on in there, and you've got a guy in a corner who's making Livy Dunn type deal, and then you've got somebody who's starting to make plays, starting to be recognized that may not have a contract, and people were saying, is that going to cause a rift in the locker room? Well, you have to start managing that. You girls had a chance to see that up close, I think, this year. Was there any feeling of that inside practice locker rooms away from competition?
I think we tried to keep business outside of the practice facility and not really like speak so much about like, oh, I'm getting this, whenever you knew that some of your teammates may have like a bunch of deals or may not have any. So I think that was one way we went about it, but then also like we were really focused on what we were doing in the gym whenever we got there. And so like Christina and Reagan said earlier, like this could be a distraction, and I think for the most part we did a really good job this year of handling NIL and not letting it be a distraction that it could be and take away from what our ultimate goal was.
How did you think that Jay Clark handled it, like from a coaching standpoint? I don't mean to I'd imagine they're learning too,
Yeah,
right? I
they
mean,
are.
what was that like from you being the athlete to the coach? I'd imagine saying, keep all distractions away, but you're like, they're paying me for these distractions now, How does that work?
I think that Jay handled things well. Obviously, like you said, he doesn't want too many distractions to be there. He wanted us to be able to be focused, but at the same time, like he was excited for us to have opportunities, and like he was happy for us along the way. He's like, oh, like he would come up and ask us like, oh, I saw this post that you did. What's this all about? And so I think it was another way for him to like engage like in our personal lives that we're putting out on social media. But it was just like another conversation piece to have with him.
Double-edged sword for coaches, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can't really come out and say you hate it,
Right.
because then you're discouraging student athletes to look at your program in recruiting. But you also, like you said, I'd imagine there's a lot of old school coaches out there that hate anything on the outside, distracting competition. And I imagine this has a huge distraction on what happens on the floor. So it's a hell of a conundrum for sure. Jacob Phillips has a question for the ladies. How will NIL change you as an alum? Will you continue to try and get these brand deals after you graduate? Like if you have, if you got, is this the former linebacker, Jacob Phillips?
That is my preference.
Okay.
There is a former linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is the thing was shared.
Yes.
I feel like the influencer world is so big now, and I think we all realize that through NIL. So I definitely think it's something that we're all going to continue to do now that we're done with athletics. So
It gives you a leg up, right? It gives you a little bit of a head start
Right.
to the rest of, like you said, the real world. I mean, you kind of, hey, you've been knowing me since college. I've been endorsing you, and we've been partners
Yeah.
since I've been in college. I mean, I think that there's long-term relationships that you'll see some successes come out of this, right? Like, I mean, like where you've got an opportunity to build a brand and build a relationship with somebody that you've known since you're 23, 24 years old, and, you know, carry that on to the future. Gives you a great leg up on the competition.
for sure.
Really does. And from their standpoint, they know you. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a time for the business owner to decide, is this the person, the individual that I want promoting my brand? And from the you know, like, I mean, some of you have relationships that are now almost a year old in that space.
I think with NIL, as much as it is cool, you know, get to post on social media and the rest of it, it also like gives you a chance to network with people. And I think LSU has been doing a great job. We had a meeting the other day. It was called Build Your Board, and so they had business professionals come in and sit down with us at tables, and we just were talking over dinner. And I think it's just really cool to just get networking, you know, especially with different brands, like just to know people, and like whether it's, I think, just another opportunity for you, like another avenue for you to get to know people. You know, your fans, you know, some of them, but then also just like people outside in the community. Like it's just another way to really just bring people into your circle.
Yeah. Shout out Jacob. Good question.
Great question.
Great question, Jacob. Stewie, back hit that microphone back there for Bree. Bree's got a question for our gymnast. Go ahead, Bree.
Yeah, so I was looking at the Instagram live and we were having questions, but I had one. So now that you guys are, you know, done with competing in gymnastics and stuff, you said that you kind of have a leg up now with like being an influencer, which I think is really cool. But what are some brands that, as a female athlete, that you like to represent that, you know, male athletes might not want to do those deals, like boutiques or some cool stuff like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of boutiques, like you just said, that's probably one of the biggest ones just because it's clothing, and I think a lot of female athletes are into fashion and that kind of thing. I think like makeup, tanning for us was a big thing also. So those are kind of probably some of the biggest ones.
Food?
Food. Yeah.
Energy drinks.
When's the last time y'all paid for a meal?
Yes.
When's the last time y'all paid for a meal?
today.
Ah. Who's out there, man? Who are these business owners? All right, man. Ben, wrap this up for me. NIL, just kind of where we are, where you see this thing going.
Yeah, it's here. It's not going away, right? This is the future. Athletes are going to be compensated for it. How it exactly looks like, we're not really sure, but I feel like they're going to have to come up with a good compromise that allows the schools probably be a little bit more involved than what a lot is happening. And I think that's where the laws are going, in order to help the athletes do it successfully. And so that there's like that middle ground where the schools can really protect their brand. Mm-hmm. They have a brand. They can protect their athletes. They can nurture their athletes. They can do that to ensure that their athletes stay or athletes come. And then they make sure that like businesses can get what they need out of it too. And so there's all these things coming together. And I think it's just only going to grow. And I think, people are going to have to figure out ways to do team-specific stuff so that everybody is taken care of somehow, and that most sports have an opportunity to do it as well. It's been interesting. I'll say this is that the number one has been football, mm-hmm. but number two has been women's basketball. Mm-hmm. As far as the data that's been released from Open Doors and stuff of the numbers of athletes getting deals and the amount of money that they're getting, and that the average is around like $1,000. So I think that average is going to keep going up. I think the number of deals are going to keep going up, and I think it's going to have to. Another thing that's going to happen a lot. The LSU has done it. I don't know if with other schools, but other teams, but definitely with the football team, is the team-wide licensing deals and the royalties.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so
Where they're selling the jerseys with the names and stuff.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out team and more passive things. Especially, something people probably don't know is that a lot of our international athletes can't do NIL because of their visa. Yep. So I've actually offered a couple people a contract, and it's like compliance is like, we can't do it.
Why?
They're international, and their student visa prohibits them from earning money while they're here.
Wow.
So I've actually talked to some people. It's like, well, what if they were back home in Australia?
Sure.
And then they did some posts, and then you paid them, and I'm like, man, that's so complicated. I don't know if I want to get down that line.
So Ben Simmons would not be able to sign an NIL deal while at LSU.
If he's on a student visa, then it would preclude him from doing it. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's where I'm thinking, like, the future is going to have to be, how do you make it structured, organized around the team? How do you make it as least impactful on the athletes, because they're really busy, and as you talk to them, like they do a lot, and you also want them to have that balance of being focused on their sport so they can continue to compete, because that's where their celebrity comes from, and that's where like the let's call it the victories and the wins that the fans are looking for come from, is them practicing and being focused on focused as a team, as opposed to they're just out there hunting deals, and they feel like they have to hunt deals because they need like some extra spending cash. So I think that's where it's going to go, is people are going to figure that out. Maybe a little self-serving there, because that's our premise and our platform. Sure. It's because I think that's where we think it needs to head and go, and I think that is where it's going to go.
Learn about CrowdPush by logging online to crowdpush.com. It is a great informative site that gives you an idea of who CrowdPush is and what their intent is. They're here to change the game. The game has changed, and now since the game has changed, they're going to change it up even more, and they're going to give you the opportunity, the fan, the supporter, somebody who is a gymnastics fan, a women's basketball fan, a basketball fan, a football fan, whatever you are drawn to on a college campus from an athletic standpoint, you have the potential to help out, to donate, to give money to a cause that you feel passionate about. CrowdPush allows that avenue from you to the student, and it's live, it is active, and it's a year old, and it's continuing to change. And our gymnasts today give us great insight, who were on our panel, to give us just an idea of the world that they have resided in the last year. And you even see from their standpoint, for as successful as they were in just the first year of NIL, there's still a lot of shoulder shrugs on, I don't know what it is, how we continue to evolve, and how it continues to get bigger. Because as Ben said, I agree, it is here, and this is something that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube on this thing. Once it's out, right? Like, you can't stop paying players. You're not going to hear an argument now from anybody saying, no, this is a bad idea. Let's take the money away from the student athletes. That's not going to fly. So there is going to be more legislation. There's going to be more rules. There's going to be more guidance on this. And as that happens, CrowdPush is a great resource for you over at crowdpush.com. Is there anything that was not said today or asked here that you feel like we want to talk about from a name, image, and likeness standpoint, that you've experienced or that you didn't experience that you wanted out there? I just want to make sure that we don't leave anything unsaid before we get out.
I don't have anything.
From a gymnastics standpoint, I don't know if there's an easy way to ask this question. So forgive me for it's. But is this like the end? I mean, is this the end of your athletic?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no next level, right? I mean,
that's another point. I know you brought it up earlier that gymnastics is way different than all other sports.
Sure.
So we peak at like 14, 15, 16,
right.
and if you want to go the Olympic route, you're going to go that route around that age. And then you had to make the decision whether you wanted to go pro or you wanted to go to college. So I know I had to make that decision, which I ended up wanting to come to college. But now Olympians are able to go to college while also getting paid through NIL deals.
Wow.
So it's really neat to see
Was
how
that at
that
Auburn?
worked.
Did I see that at Auburn? Was
Yeah.
Auburn? Was there an Auburn gymnast?
SUNY.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so. I don't know if she would have gone to college if she didn't have these opportunities. You know. So it's just really neat to see that gymnasts, especially since our careers are so short, it's really neat that we're able to.
How close were
these
you
deals.
choosing the other path?
Well, so I went to Olympic trials in 2016. I didn't make the Olympic team. So if I were to make the Olympic team, I probably would have had a harder decision. But it was always really college
yeah.
because I wanted this experience.
I'd imagine. That's probably a trying time for a gymnast, right? That point in your life where you're deciding, what am I going to do here? Am I going to be, am I going full throttle in, or I'd imagine both, or you're gas to the, the pedal to the metal. But I didn't think about that from a gymnastics standpoint. I mean, your prime, or not your prime, but I mean, your decision is probably like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
You made this choice, right? I mean, like it's wild, man.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Congratulations on all of your success. And thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time today. Best of luck, whatever could be next for you in life after gymnastics and life after LSU. You've been great representatives for our city and for the flagship university. And I know that this is going to be a topic. I'd love to revisit this panel 2 years from now, like or a year from now, just to kind of talk about what it's like, remember the days when we were talking in the studio of your first year of NIL to look what's happening now in name, image, and likeness for sure. And I know Crowd Push will be there along the way in every step of it. So thank you again for your time today, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
For
Appreciate
Crowd
it.
Push. And make sure and log
Thank you,
on to
ladies.
crowdpush.com.
Thank
Crowdpush.com. I cannot stress to you how good of a resource for name, image, and likeness information and just opportunities. Right there on the homepage. If you are an LSU gymnastics fan, you can see. You can click on the Crowd Push to donate to LSU women's gymnastics. There's 3 days left. In fact, I linked that Crowd Push inside of our chat over on YouTube. So if you want to click that link and donate to the cause, you can do that right now. And it's very easy. It's a click away over at crowdpush.com. So for our entire crew, Stewie on the ones and twos, and for our gymnasts, Sarah Edwards, Sami Durante, Reagan Campbell, and Christina Desiderio. Did I got that?
Got it.
Good Italian. Good Italian name. I couldn't screw that up.
Very.
And Ben Hubbard from Crowd Push today, giving us a little insight on name, image, and likeness. Thank you all very much. We're signing off. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Make sure and hit the like, share, and comment button. Interact with us so we can get it in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Thank you for your interaction today, and have a great rest of your day.